G'day, I'm Paul. If you see one of these cars pull up behind you in a hurry in Australia, you could have a problem. That's because Volkswagen has started rolling these out to some of the Australian police forces as a general duties police car. It's the Volkswagen Passat. It's now available in one trim level, the 140 TSI Business, but they have enlisted some 206 TSI Passats as highway patrol cars as well, whereas this one is just the front-wheel drive car. Prices start at just under $46,000. But this is insane. They're already doing drive-away prices on this car at under $43,000. So it is seriously cheap. It competes with cars like the Mazda 6, the Hyundai Sonata, the Toyota Camry, and the Kia Optima. Now, if you do want to skip ahead in this detailed review, you can use the time codes above or simply scroll down to the description for the links. And while you're at it, I'd love it if you could hit subscribe for our channel and also the bell icon so it tells you every single time we drive police car looking cars. Let's talk exterior. 6 colours to choose from, and all but this very police car looking white is $800 extra. The Passat's a pretty handsome looking car, don't you think? It sort of doesn't look too boring and plain. It's got a little bit of style to it with all these chrome bits, a big Volkswagen badge. Kind of all just looks nice. You know, it's not too exciting, not too aggressive, just nice. And that means you're getting full LED headlights as well as standard. And if I whip around to the side here, you get 18-inch alloy wheels with a fairly sort of chubby tyre. You're looking at a 45 profile there. I'm keen to see whether this car rides well, because Volkswagens are generally known for their good ride, but with 18-inch alloy wheels, you're starting to sort of move towards the higher end of wheel dimension there. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of the design? Is something this sort of plain looking going to put you away from this car, or would you just go for something like a nicer color to make it stand out a little bit? Let me know your thoughts. Integrated into this wing mirror is an indicator. Same story at the back. It's just, you know, nothing too exciting. You have these cool looking LED lights integrated into the rear. And I do like this feature here. To open the boot, you basically push this in, and when the reverse camera comes on, that pops out as well. So it's a clever integration of both a boot opener and also a reverse camera. So we're now inside the Passat, and you can kind of see that exterior theme follows on in here. It's nice, but it's not amazing. But it's okay that it's not amazing. It just serves a purpose, and I think they've done a good job with it. They've broken up the blacks with this trim along the top here. It's plastic, but it's got that weave to it. They do have a lot of piano black, which I'm not a big fan of. It marks quite easily and it leaves fingerprints everywhere, so you can see it around the gear shifter and also the infotainment system, but they haven't gone crazy with it. So look, it is plain, but it does look nice. Let's see how soft it is with our hardness tester. So this tests the hardness, and we're going to check the dashboard in a second from 0 to 100, where 0 is really soft and 100 is really hard. Like I say all the time, only motoring journalists care about how soft a soft touch dashboard is. So let's see what it measures on our scale. Hey, that's not bad. So it's in the 60s. Let's try this center console lid. That's pretty good too, in the 50s. So Volkswagen has done a good job in making this interior feel nice and premium with soft touch finishes. Let's look at build quality though, and it all feels really nice and solid. Nothing's moving around. Feels like this has been screwed together really nicely. Let's talk infotainment. This is what Volkswagen calls the Discover Media infotainment system. It's an 8-inch screen. I'm going to give you a quick run through now, but we've done a detailed review on the Discover range. If you want to watch our detailed review of the Volkswagen infotainment systems, click on the link up there. This is really clever because it's recently been updated to include wireless Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and they've updated the ports inside the car to be USB-C as opposed to USB-A. So I'll take you through the system. This is the home screen. You've got several buttons you can choose from there, and you'll notice that when your finger approaches, you get extra context menus. It's got like a little radar sensor, and then it also has gesture controls. So you can swipe left and right, and there is a hidden menu up the top here that a lot of people don't know about. This is where you can change the instrument lighting, enable air care, which is the air filtration system, and then add shortcuts such as your route guidance to home. Speaking of route guidance, I'll show you what that looks like. The map display is really nice and clear. It's easy to zoom in and out. Then you also have auto zoom functions that mean that the car will zoom in when you're approaching intersections and then zoom out when you're on highways. In terms of radio, you don't have DAB plus digital radio. I just don't understand why Volkswagen is so against it. When you click on your sources, you have AM, FM, and then the ability to stream Bluetooth audio. Over on the phone menu, it is currently connected to Apple CarPlay, which means all of your functions run through the screen. It's a good integration. It seems high resolution enough. And it also means that you're able to use the voice recognition function. That button does nothing unless you're connected to smartphone mirroring. The only downside to the smartphone mirroring is that you don't have wireless phone charging. So while it is a wireless integration of the smartphone mirroring, you can't charge your phone wirelessly. You still have to plug it up. So it is a little bit counterintuitive, but the infotainment system itself works really well, and it's one of the better systems available in this segment. Enough about infotainment, let's talk about the other features you're getting with the 140 TSI Business. You have autonomous emergency braking that detects pedestrians as well, radar cruise control, you have tri-zone climate control, so 2 for the front row, 1 for the second row. You have heated leather seats up the front, and I like this feature. One push of that button and there's a massage seat function. So after a hard day at the office as an accountant, because that's probably who's buying this, you can put your massage seats on for the way home. Then you also have a self-parking feature. So if you're not confident with parking, one push of that allows the car to self-perpendicular and parallel park. You have a blind that goes up and down at the back. I never understood what the point in that feature is. Let me know in the comments below if you have an electric blind at the rear, whether you actually ever use it or not. You have a reverse view camera with front and rear parking sensors, but ahead of the driver, you don't get a digital display like you do in other Volkswagen models. You've got this old school analog setup with a small digital display in the center. And finally, it's capped off with an auto dimming rear vision mirror. And what does the key look like? Here it is here. So it's a pretty standard looking Volkswagen key. You've got a lock, unlock, the boot, and then if you flip it around, you have the Volkswagen symbol nestled in the top corner. And it's proximity, entry, and start as well, so the key just stays in your pocket. What about practicality? And we'll kick off with storage. Where are you going to put your phone? Well, there is a nice little nook down the front there. It's gripped as well, so your phone isn't going to move around. Bottle storage fits into both of these. They're both different heights and they have these retractable grips on them as well, so the bottle isn't going to move around. Then inside the door you have very generous bins for bottles and other little pieces. The door bins are also carpeted, which is pretty fancy. Have a look at this in terms of storage. So you have the center armrest here that moves forwards, it takes a bit of effort, and backwards, but then you can also lock it into different positions. So if you're short, you can have it higher. If you're insanely short, you can have it really high. And then inside there you have your other USB-C port. It's not the biggest center console in the world, but big enough for a wallet and a couple of other bits and pieces. Over here you have a glove box that's reasonably sized. That's where the CD player would sit if it existed. You have SD card slots and then slots for a business card and coins. It's air conditioned as well. You can open and close the air conditioning port using this swivel. Over on my right hand side, I have a bin for coins and other little bits and pieces. And then above us, we have sunglass storage as well. So there are plenty of places to store things inside this cabin. Now, what about comfort? So I told you before that there is massage seats available. The front of the seat moves forwards and backwards, and then the headrest moves forwards and backwards as well. That's for your whiplash protection. The seat itself is reasonably comfortable. It is a little bit firm though, so we haven't spent a huge amount of time behind the wheel, but can you get your comments if you've bought a Passat? Let us know in the comments below whether this is a comfortable seat for long distance drives. Steering wheel sits nicely in the hand and all the controls are easy to reach from this seating position. Okay, back seats. I really like it back here. It kind of reminds me of the Falcon and the Commodore, the Australian built cars we used to make right here in Australia. The business spec kind of caters towards a luxury end of that market, but it is still ultimately the perfect family car because you have stacks of room back here. I've got loads of knee room. Tow room isn't amazing, but you know, it's comfortable enough and you could easily fit 2 adults side by side here, or 3 kids if you wanted them to be abreast. That third zone of climate control is down here. You can adjust that by pushing up and down. Then hidden under this little door here is another USB-C outlet and a 12-volt outlet. Here you've got a center armrest with 3 cup holders. Let's give those a shot. So we've seen this in a few different cars now where they have different sizes, each of them. So a bottle fits fine in there, doesn't fit into there, and no way it's gonna fit into there, which is a little bit odd. And then in the door, you've also got room for a bottle and then a little bit of extra storage. But have a look over here. You can access the boot using this ski port. So you drop that down and then you have ready access to the boot. So I think that's clever, and you can use that to get things out of the boot without having to stop the car. Also fixed points on the 2 outboard seats. You've got air vents, map pockets in both seats, and have a look at this. You also have blinds, so you can go full exec spec with the side and the rear blind up as well. No one's ever going to be able to see you in here. Let's talk about cargo capacity and what surprised me with this. So there's that boot opener. I love that little system. It is kind of old now. They debuted ages ago on the Golf, but I think it's quite genius. There is almost 600 litres of cargo space here, and what makes that even more impressive is that under the cargo floor, you have a full-size spare tyre. Obviously, with this car being used in some police forces, they need a full-size spare instead of a space saver. And then alongside that, you have the jack and a couple of other bits and pieces. But you still get a really big usable floor. And then on top of that, you can fold these seats as well by pulling this lever. Let's drop out of the way. And then that expands to almost 1,200 litres of cargo space in an almost flat floor up until the back of the seats. Then you have other nifty features like this, a retractable hook, and have a look at this, that is spring loaded as well. So instead of just snapping back into position, it's got like a soft close on it. Storage on either sides of the boot. You have hooks and then also a 12-volt outlet as well. Let's see how it fits our luggage. I don't think there's going to be any dramas at all here. Like a glove. Safety triangle up there as well. So we're driving the Passat now. Under the bonnet, this is powered by the 140 TSI engine, which is a 2-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder petrol engine that makes, you guessed it, 140 kilowatts of power and 320 newton meters of torque. It's mated to a 7-speed dual clutch gearbox. Now, if you've watched some of our other car reviews, you'll know that I'm not a massive fan of dual clutch gearboxes. They can just be a little bit fussy up hills, and they're a little sort of elastic when you're moving off the line. They're not sort of uniform like a torque converter. This one's much the same, but I suspect after owning it for a while, it's probably a trait that you're going to get used to, and Volkswagen's days of DSG troubles seem to be behind them at the moment. The only downside to this engine is that it requires a minimum 95 RON premium unleaded fuel, but it does mean that it will achieve 6.4 litres per 100 kilometres on the combined cycle. Now, a lot of you ask, how close do we actually get to that? Well, the long-term usage for this car is 6.6 litres per 100 kilometres, and it has done almost 2,000 kilometres. So it's pretty impressive that this is virtually bang on the claimed fuel economy. So it gives you an idea of which manufacturers get close to their numbers and which actually don't. This isn't the world's most powerful engine, but should you choose to sink the boot in, it gives you a nice kick in the pants, and it'll do 0 to 100 in about 7.4 seconds. It's pretty reasonable for a car this size, and the engine's quite responsive as well. So when you do find that you need to get stuck into it, the gearbox is quick enough to rifle back through the gears, give you what you need, but it doesn't always need to. It can lean on its torque band to give you a lot of torque in its current gear, so that just spools up the turbocharger and gives you a more linear feel, as opposed to having to dive back through gears when you flatten the throttle. But when you do, it actually feels really nice and doesn't feel like it'll run out of breath if you're trying to overtake or get out of somewhere in a hurry. Now, the curious thing, comes with a brake towing capacity of 1,800 kilos. Yes, it is front-wheel drive, so you're probably not going to be doing a great deal of towing, but the maximum downbore weight is 90 kilos, and generally the rule of thumb is 10% of your maximum braked trailer capacity is what you want as your downbore weight. So if you reverse engineer those numbers, you would really only want to be towing 900 kilos in this car if you absolutely had to. What's the ride like? Well, it's actually really nice. So here comes a speed hump. Yeah, it's just really sort of, I don't know, it's really cushy and padded. Even though you've got those 18-inch alloy wheels, it doesn't feel abrasive or too pushy on any of these surfaces. Even if you find yourself a bit of a corrugated country road, it's still soaking it up really nicely, but it does have a slightly firm edge to it, so it kind of gives you a hint of sportiness without actually being overly sporty, which is kind of cool. Steering feel isn't too bad. It's got a fair bit of communication through the wheel. It isn't super light, which some of these larger sedans can be. It's actually quite nice and it feels sporty in that sense. You're able to throw it around a few corners and actually get feedback through the steering wheel. Let's chat visibility. I can see miles ahead of me here. Visibility out the back's good. Wing mirrors are not too bad. They are a little smaller than I was hoping for, but they do have that, I'm gonna have to learn this, the concave thing at the end. It gives you a little bit of extra visibility around the corner. And I love when you put the indicator on that you can actually see it flashing on the outer edge of the wing mirror too. Cabin noise is good. There is a little bit of road noise coming into the cabin, but it's not the end of the world. You will find more of it though as you hit coarse chip surfaces, but for the most part it's a fairly quiet place to be seated. I'll quickly run you through the drive modes. There's a button here that brings them up on the screen. You've got Eco, which reduces your air conditioning a bit. Sport, which puts the gearbox into a sport mode. There are no paddle shifters, so you've got to slide over here to manually row through the gears, or one pull down puts it directly into a sport mode. And then finally you have individual, which lets you customize each of those components. So the question is, can you actually notice a difference in sport mode? Let's see what happens. I'll just put sport on. It's gone back a couple of gears. Oh yeah, the throttle's a bit sharper. Yeah, so it kind of just sharpens up throttle response, and it's more willing to go back through the gears. Yeah, it's pretty good. It feels really nice. So the Volkswagen Passat. Look, it's a bit vanilla, it's a bit boring, but you know, so am I. Some people like vanilla and boring. That's why they buy Camrys and other sort of cars like that. So if this is the type of car that you want, that's going to get you from A to B, it gets you there in style, it's got plenty of punch from the engine, and it's incredibly efficient as well. Comes with lots of standard features, and there's no options list to worry about. You just pick the paint color, pay a bit extra if you need to, and then drive straight out of there. And they have enough confidence to use these in the police force. That kind of tells you that they've done the durability testing that they need to. So if you found this video useful, press the like button, follow it up with a subscribe, and also hit the bell icon, and let us know in the comments below whether you've bought a Passat. What do you think of it? What's it like over the long term? And are you as vanilla as I am? But until next time, take it easy.